Welcome back, folks, to World of Warships Legends. I'm Soopa-Dave, and today's build and play guide, we have Amano. I think is how it's pronounced. You didn't come here for pronunciations, but let's go ahead and start on this new Japanese ship. Uh, I can tell you now, this is the build where I would, if you were using Makawa, I would go to a more damaged build, and I'll show you why here in a second. But Yamato, if you're free to play it, but if you have a Tago or Hageru, them would be the ways to go. Nikolai Kuzanov, Membeli, and you really want to pump the HE on this line in particular. But at tier 6, Makawa, I think, is less effective because now you can actually dodge shells with these ships a little bit if you're careful. And You want to boost the HE. That's a strong suit. I always try to play into the strong suits of the ships, and this line is HE damage and fires. And I'm gonna show you that here in a second with what this build is. So at this stage, I would start to steer away from Makawa, and also I really start liking this line here at tier 6. So deck is on fire base trait, beyond range, igniter, hellfire, and fixated for your skills. Now, at this point, uh, this is going to depend on what your playstyle is. I switched to refill station for legendary, and I liked it. I haven't really needed as many spotter planes as I thought I did, and that's really the big key because the sonars aren't that great on these things. But Refill station definitely to get the reload down. These do have quite a big reload. Definitely does help. So interestingly enough, tier 6, this thing doesn't have the full 360-degree turrets like all the others do in the line. That is one difference. So let's go to our mods. Your first mod, you're going to want the main battery dispersion. You could take the turret traverse on this one. This would be one time I might do that, but these guns need a little bit of bump to their accuracy. The For the mod 2 propulsion mod, because you're going to rely on that to 100% dodge shells if you need to. You're not always going to have cover. You should try to find cover with these. That's kind of what they like is the play style. But if you're not, you can use the prop mod to get out of trouble. And then for the third mod, you want to take concealment. For your first upgrade, definitely take range like I always do in cruisers. And the hull upgrade, not so much for the health because you'll get depth strike in these if you're not paying attention, but more for the rudder shift time to get that down. And the last one, the torpedoes. So let's go to our loadout. Again, it has the sonars. Now, with refill station, you only have 3, but honestly, these things don't last long. So, I don't really use them a whole lot, to be honest with you. I do use them a little bit, but the more important thing for me is the catapult fighter for spotting. Um, and then we'll go ahead and look at the specs of it. 32,000 health. Honestly, like the rest of the line, if somebody has AP loaded and sees you and you're not paying attention, you're gonna be the new submarine because that's what these things are if you get hit. Now at tier 6 and 7, they're not as atrocious when they get hit, but they're still really bad. They're even worse, in my opinion. They're still as bad or worse than the other Japanese cruiser lines. So the heavy cruisers. For guns, you do have 12 of them on this light cruiser, and they reload. Now with Hagero, you can see this whole line, the HE's been really good. But we're going to compare this here just so you guys can see how powerful this HE is. So if you can see, we get 12 guns, they reload every 10 seconds. They do about 3,000 damage and 14 fire percent. So we're going to take a look at Kansas because a lot of you guys that pay attention to Kansas, you guys will know 33 seconds. So if you take the Amano, and you take that times 3 because it's going to get 3 salvos to every one Kansas is going to get. Even though Kansas is tier 7, that would be like Kansas having a 9,000 HE shell damage and like a 43% fire chance. It's absolutely nuts. And that's tier 7 Kansas is. So you can see the comparison of how powerful the HE is if you build into it. Also, if you guys hadn't seen the video, I think that came out earlier. I'm not sure if it came out earlier or after this. I think it already came out. But you can Citadel with this HE and given the right ship and circumstances. I did it today and it caught me off guard, to be honest with you. And don't sleep on the AP. You guys have seen me in every match, I'm pretty sure so far. Switch to AP and use it and get Citadel. So the AP, again, when you get cruisers within like 10 kilometers of you, use your AP. It does work. But for your torpedoes, really solid torpedoes on this. 13 and a half knots. They're slow, but honestly, you send them out there whenever you get a chance, and they, sometimes will do stuff. Now, the AA does get a little bit better here. I didn't have a carrier match to really test it, but again, a lot of your damage comes from that 3.1, so it's probably not as good as this comes off to be. The only benefit you have is hopefully you're not getting hit in this ship, so late in the match, it's still there compared to other ships. Maneuverability, 33 knots. Turning circle is not good for a cruiser. It's not awful, but it's not great. And the rudder shift at E8. And I can assure you that rudder shift, I think, is like 11 or 12 seconds before the hull upgrade. So you really want to be careful in making sure you use your prop mod to dodge shells and not so much your rudder shift because it will not happen. This thing, before the hull upgrade, definitely has like a battleship kind of rudder. And with that turning circle, it feels like a battleship in its maneuverability. So for concealment, 10-2, it's pretty solid. You could build into Makawa, but personally, I would rather strengthen the HE on this. Given the right division, this ship could be, if you're in a division or you have good spotting, you can really do well. But you can see here, the tide has changed on this line for me. I've adjusted to these ships, my play style, and you can see. Normally I'm aggressive, but you can see even after getting Dev Strike. So every ship, by the way, just because I'm an aggressive player, every ship of this line, I went into my first match and got Dev Struck. Tier 4, it happened like 3 times in a row, but these, if you get hit in these are going away. You are going underwater as a submarine. But you can see it super consistent for me with spotting or making my own spotting with the catapult fighter. Not wonderful, but it's effective. It's decent at getting ready destroyers, which is important to me. And all my games in this ship for the most part has been between like 50 and 70,000, like every game for the most part. Haven't had an aircraft carrier to really test that AA on it. So this is going to be the one thing to note with this ship, guys. So I will say I don't feel like it gets dev struck as bad as the tier 4 and the tier 5 that we've already showcased, but it's not good. And the real problem this thing has is this side plating of like 16, 15, or 16 on the side plating. I mean, cruisers will absolutely wreck you. You're actually going to see this today. I was playing this and Shimato at the same time, and Shimato actually has like 25 on the side plating here, as you can see. And that makes a significant difference when you're trying to angle to other cruisers at close range. You're going to see that in the match today. But again, you're not I mean, you don't want to be taking hits in this thing. You want to be behind an island or avoiding hits. These things just explode when something looks at them correctly. Not as bad as the lower tiers, like I said, but and you can see it still has that huge citadel. It's just crazy. And your bow is not going to protect you from anything. I mean, it just isn't. You're going to get overmatched by almost everything. As we go ahead and start this match and check who we're up against, I do want to say it is disclaimer time. This is a beginner's guide to help out people just learning this ship or learning the game in general. This is not for professional gamers that know everything there is to know about everything. There is also multiple ways to build and play ships, so opinions will vary. I am just a above average player. I don't claim to be the best player in the world. I just am a pretty darn good player. So I do make mistakes. You're going to see some in this match. And also, you didn't come to this video to see how to pronounce names, as I am very terrible at slaughtering other beautiful languages. It's almost an art form, so keep that in mind when you're watching this, guys. With that out of the way, we are on Neighbors, and we're not bottom tier. That's a rarity for me though lately, but and particularly new ships. But we're gonna go ahead and get ourselves close. I was thinking about going to this island, but man, sometimes that island here really limits what you can shoot at. And now with the having the propulsion mod, I figured this would be a good video to showcase this. Now, also, it's a good video because it also showcases a weakness later on, and I make a mistake and I pay for it. But that being said, with this thing, drop your torpedoes. It has the good torpedo angles, and it's not like the heavy cruiser line or the tier 4 of this line. You can kind of just throw them out there and see what happens. Now, Hargero or Hyuga spotted, you notice I don't shoot right away. You never want to be the first person spotted, particularly in a cruiser. As you can see, when you are the first person spotted, you are going to see what our British friend is going to run into here being the first person spotted. Once they start shooting, I go ahead and start firing off at will, and I'm just careful of who's what or shooting me. As you can see, our British cruiser friend, I think that was a Leander over there, I'm not sure, but absolutely takes a beating right away. And you got to be careful. And like I said, I'm paying attention to who's shooting at me for the most part here. Obviously, there's other people spotted, but in my opinion, Hyuga here is the biggest threat. Hyuga can look at me and I will be taking off this map. So I definitely need to focus on Hyuga. And one thing to note too is, like I mentioned, these are these guns don't have the 360-degree turrets like in the rest of the line. So when you do flip sides, it does take a little bit longer with this ship. It is interesting how each one of these ships kind of have a unique trait about them. But that is Omono's unique trait. Now, I could have drove up into that smoke, and I thought about it, but I figured by the time I get there, I would be it would be half gone, and it wouldn't, I'd be putting myself in a bad position to get there. So Indianapolis is spotted. I take a shot just seeing if I could finish it off, but we do have a perma fire going on Hyuga right now, so I'm going to do my best to focus on some other ships. As you can see, I'm just kind of looking around, keeping an eye on what's going on. Hyuga is now backing up. And so we're going to keep an eye out, but we're going to go ahead with the fire out on him now. We're going to try to do it again. Indianapolis is too far away to finish off, so we're going to go ahead and focus back on Hyuga because he's the biggest threat to me. There was no destroyers in this match, so for like the first time ever, you will see me in a match where I don't shoot and kill a destroyer or try to. It's like my favorite thing to do in this game. But we really need in my opinion, Hyuga is the biggest threat on the entire team because we have a team full of cruisers, and that thing just destroys cruisers for a living. That's what the Hyuga does. Well, it destroys everything. But we're gonna go ahead and move up. We see Leander start to move up here. And we have another fire on Hyuga again. I probably should have went for the double fire here, but I thought maybe I could catch Leander not paying attention. But this Leander is a good player. This isn't going to be the last that we see of Leander, by the way. But I'm going to try to throw some AP shells over there at him. But he does, for the most part, a good job of dodging. So we're going to switch back over to HE. And then you see I get there's a new detection, and all of a sudden there's a Russian battleship there. I think it was Ismail or Sinop. I can't remember. But anyway, we're going to try to get Hyuga on fire again. And to be honest, we've done a fair amount of damage with our actual shells. Now that, them shells did shatter there, but you can see these things actually do a fair amount of damage. Now we've completely soaked the superstructure, but we can see we did get 4 full pins. And you can see I'm slowly starting to steer away. I've got another fire on Hyuga, and I do not want to be in the crosshairs of that Sinop yet. And I don't want to be broadside to him. So with Sinop or with Hyuga on fire, we're going to focus on Sinop here, and get them damage cons taken away, started on Sinop. And we're going to go ahead, and he makes a good play here to stop and start moving forward as we get a double fire right away. And we're going to start to make sure, like I said, in this ship, if you don't have cover, you got to be paying attention in this ship. Now, this match was a little bit easier to pay attention because most of my threats were in my view the whole time. So, but you got to be careful sometimes that shots aren't coming over the island. Now, I know this is Leander here, so I'm not super worried. And you can see it, Sinop shatters our shells, but we do get a fire, and that's what's important. Russian battleships, when you're shooting at the top of them, they just don't have a lot of superstructure, and they shatter a lot of HE shells. But, like I said, we're going to try to get it going on fire here. We do get a couple pins. To be honest, I probably should have switched to AP over here. Now, I know where the Leander is. He's in front of me. I'm paying attention. I'm trying to close the distance to Leander. He pops out, and I switch to AP. And I do this thing a lot, and I just call it the turn. And where I load AP, and I try to surprise somebody. And that's what we do. He didn't expect us to be there here, with it, in their Citadel. Now, this is where I make a terrible play here. I opened up way too much, and I forgot this thing has that, 15mm side plating, and he absolutely wrecks me. That was a complete mistake on my part, and I'm basically dead now because of it. And we got really unlucky on that salvo. But you can see it does Citadel, and congrats to Leander. He caught me. I made a mistake, and he definitely played this well. He was a solid player from what I could tell. And we go down here. And I could have had a pretty good game in this. It was still a good game, but that one mistake, and all of a sudden your health is gone, as you can see. Even a little Leander AP will just completely wreck you. So from there on out, our team takes out Leander because he's the only thing spotted, and then they go ahead and capture the base. But again, just wanted to show you something different with this line if you're forced to be in the open water, and showcasing kind of be careful of that side plating. 93 damage, first on our team, so we definitely helped our team, which is the most important thing. But anyway, hopefully this helped you guys out. We'll see you next time. Have a good one, folks.